So now that we've got the basic outline of what is a vertebrate, I want to go into all of the different possible lineages of vertebrates. Now, that being said, there is no way I'm going to expect you to memorize all of these. We're going to go through a whole lot of cool things, and I want you to remember some cool stuff. But it's not like, here's a list of things for you to know. This is more of a, for your information, this is some awesome stuff. For instance, the hagfish. Do you guys know about the hagfish? The hagfish is called a cyclostome. The hagfish lost its vertebral column. Like, its vertebral column is not there anyway. It used to have one, and it's gone now. No, it's not like it just slipped out. The vertebral column degraded because this organism needs to be supremely flexible in order to hunt the way it does. It lost it through evolution. What a hagfish does when it's attacking prey, when it's hunting prey, is it is a bottom of the sea scavenger. So it finds all those whale corpses that drip down, all of them, like they're just falling all over the place. Whenever, I know, it's a terrible image, right? Just whale death everywhere. But you would be amazed at how many whales die due to boat accidents. And I'm not talking little boats. I'm talking like cruise ships. Boats will, yeah, because whales are underwater and boats are on top of the water. So when a whale comes to the surface, if the whale doesn't get out of the way of the boat, that boat's not turning. It's sad, but that's the way it is. Because there's huge boats that can't steer well. They have to have very large turning radii. Right. Okay, so we'll talk about whale corpses in a few minutes. So with a hagfish, what they'll do is they will sort of burrow into the corpse and then take a bite and then pull themselves back out. Sometimes they're going to chase prey, invertebrates, worms, and things under the, even fish that burrow under the sand. The hagfish chase them. So the hagfish will use their supremely flexible body to get into these burrows, grab onto the fish or its prey, and then start pulling them out. But the way they pull them out is they literally tie their tail in a knot and use that as leverage to force the other fish out. Now, that's how the hagfish attacks its prey. The hagfish defends itself through slime, literal slime. What it does is it produces these proteins that will interact with water. And when the proteins interact with water, they cause it to gelatinize. They cause the water to form a matrix that when another fish swims through it will clog their gills. So there is never, ever, we've seen a lot of hagfish. We have never seen another animal eat a hagfish and keep it in its mouth. We've seen a lot of animals try. And it's almost a comedy video of shark coming along, taking a bite, spitting it out, and hacking. Yes? Are there any videos of it? There are plenty of videos online. You can look them up, but I don't think we have time today. So hagfish will block the gills of their predators with this slime. In order to remove the slime from themselves, they tie themselves in a knot and then squeeze the slime off their body. Sort of like you would you wring out a towel. The problem is they've got nostrils, just like you've got nostrils. Fish have nostrils, surprise. They have nostrils to detect chemicals in their environment. Well, the slime fills their nostrils. So to get rid of the slime, they sneeze violently. Yeah, right? There was an incident, not kidding, where hagfish slime caused many traffic accidents. An aquarium was transporting a load of hagfish. Was it an aquarium? No, it may have been. I think it was an aquarium that was transporting a load of hagfish on a truck, and the truck overturned, spilling hagfish across the road. It was raining. Well, the hagfish are panicking, producing this protein in the rain, and that produced slime all over the road, causing all these. And imagine trying to clean that up. So there we go. The hagfish. Another group are the Gnathostomes. The Dunkleosteus, right? There you go. Dunkleosteus is one of my favorite placoderms. In fact, it's one of my favorite creatures of all time. The Gnathostomes are characterized by being one of the earliest of the predators. It came down to, my daughter said this, a long time ago. We got teeth, and then we ate everything that was in front of us. That's what happens when you can do things and the stuff around you can't. You eat them. That summarizes the Gnathostome. You eat everything around you. Anything you can, you eat. Chondrichthyes. Sharks, skates, and rays, they all have flexible skeletons made of cartilage. That's one reason some of you guys, when you're doing the paleobio paper, you might have had Adestus or an ancient shark. It's hard to find good fossil data on them because cartilage breaks down very, very quickly. So all you have are fossilized remains of the teeth. You might have a jaw, but you don't have much else. Yeah, that's a hard one. Yeah. Osteichthyes. These are fish with bony skeletons. This particular one's the lionfish. It looks nice. They are actually, though, an invasive species, which means they're sort of eating their way through Florida right now. They're top of the food chain predators that were introduced from the Pacific Ocean, and they are such a menace that Florida is waging a huge campaign to convince people that they're delicious, because the more you make people want to eat them, the less of them there will be. Right now, it doesn't cost very much money it costs a lot of money to catch them, but not very much to sell them. But if they can make it worth it and people want these fish to eat, then suddenly they can become a crop and regulate their population. Now we get to tetrapods. Tetrapods are awesome. There are three big classes we're going to look at: Amphibia, Reptilia, and Mammalia. And all of them have 4 distinct limbs. That's the big characteristic. Tetra, meaning 4, pod for foot. Start off with the amphibians. In general, amphibians can live on land, but they have to return to the water to reproduce. They lay these really squishy, gelatinous eggs, and without water, they cannot hatch. Think your frogs, your toads. Frogs are a very diverse group. I was walking with my kid yesterday, and we happened to be walking down the street, and there was a dead frog. And man, he took 10 minutes looking at that thing. And I was so proud. You guys know what a frog is. You probably have them living around your house. You don't want to get rid of frogs. You want to keep frogs around because frogs eat lots of insects that could otherwise bother you. I didn't realize how many around this area. There's so many tree frogs. They just climb, they just apparently live on my windows. They are terribly cute. One that's even super cute, though, check out these frogs, these brightly colored frogs. We're going to talk about these bright colorations when we get to ecology. But typically that shows danger. Frogs secrete lots and lots of different proteins, and those proteins actually may have medicinal purposes. I'm not saying go and lick a frog, because that's dumb. But you're not going to get one. In recent years, we found a painkiller in frog secretions that is 200 times more powerful than an equal amount of morphine. I don't know if you guys have ever been hospitalized and had to have morphine before, but it's pretty powerful. 200 more times. I mean, that's like instant death, pretty much. Then we have toads. Toads are, they have more adaptations to living on dry land. They have more desiccation-resistant skin. Desiccation, losing water. Interesting note about toads, after they eat, every time after they eat, they wipe their mouths with their hands. I mean, it's like, oh yes, that was delicious. Good fly. Salamanders. You've seen salamanders. You've seen them like run underneath decks to hide in the summer. No, those are lizards too. But salamanders are going to have a strong relationship with a pool of water. They shed their tails in order to escape predators. Now, you guys may have already known that, and that's cool and all. But what you may not have known is the giant salamander can get up to 4 feet long. Right. So can you imagine this 4-foot-long, massive, literally, it's like holding something like this, picking it out of the water, holding it like, wrapping your arms around it, bear hugging a salamander. If that lost its tail is roughly 10 to 15 pounds of thrashing nerves. So it just starts waving around on the ground. You'd kind of freak out, I think. I don't think there's many people that wouldn't freak out watching this tail thrash around, which allows the big salamander to escape. It will regrow. Caecilians. All right. There is no animal on Earth that looks more like a sock puppet than the Caecilian. And that's its big claim to fame for me. This is a fairly recently discovered organism. The first one that was discovered in the 90s was very large and has no lungs, which means the only way it can breathe is through diffusion. They found it in the, where did they find it? I think it was in the Amazon. But because they found it with no lungs, they assumed that it has to live in cold water because cold water has a higher content of oxygen, and in constantly moving water so that it didn't absorb all the oxygen around it. And then when they actually found them in their natural environment, it turns out they live in warm, stagnant water, which makes no sense whatsoever. But there you go. So these are the Caecilians. They're insanely weird looking. Right. Reptilians. Reptiles are the first group that's going to really move away from the water and permanently stay away from the water. Where amphibians had these soft shells, these soft gelatinous eggs, amphibians are going to have eggs that have a hard shell that prevent water from escaping. Sorry, yes, reptiles. The 4 big adaptations they have that allow them to survive on land, and I'm giving you a list, so you know that's going to be an important one. They have desiccation-resistant skin, thoracic breathing, water-conserving kidneys, and internal fertilization. These 4 adaptations allow them to move away from the water and survive on land. That was really important because when they first evolved, the Earth was cooling and getting very dry. This gave them an enormous edge over the amphibians. Prior to developing these traits, life was confined to bodies where bodies of water are, but now we can move away. Desiccation-resistant skin is resistant to gas and resistant to water. It's got a hydrophobic layer on the outside that's going to prevent water from soaking in and prevent water from leaving it. Think of the scales. They have thoracic breathing. Muscle contractions in the rib cage force air into the lungs of the reptile. So just like us, what will end up happening for their breathing is they're not requiring water to keep their lungs moist, nor are they requiring water to allow diffusion to happen. They've got a muscle in their abdomen that's going to pull down, and when that pulls down, that inflates the lungs. Importantly, they have water-conserving kidneys. Kidneys are the organs used to concentrate waste into urine. So you're able to pull water out of the waste product and keep it in the body. So that when you're urinating, you're really just getting rid of waste product, not necessarily losing water. We're going to get into a super exciting lecture about the way kidneys conserve water in just a few minutes. Yay. But yeah, so by using the kidneys, water can be conserved. And they have internal fertilization. That means that they're not going to drop their eggs and then fertilize the eggs. The eggs are fertilized inside the body, and then the shell grows, and then the eggs are deposited. That's different from frogs. Frogs will sit right on top of each other. The female will lay the eggs. The male will drop sperm on them, and that's fertilization externally. But in snakes, with at least two penises, they're going to interact. There's going to be a fertilization event inside, which is then going to be result in the eggs being internally fertilized, and then the shell grows over them. All right, we got another group. Yes. Why do snakes have two penises? It's okay. There's a few answers. One is snake is really long, right? You've got to make sure things line up so that effectively they can contort themselves into lots and lots of different positions. Does that make sense? They have to make sure that whatever position they're in, at least one of those penises will have access to the vagina. Does that make sense? There you go. Turtles. You guys have seen turtles be... Oh, you guys have probably walked across a pier, saw bubbles come up at some point, and thought, there must be a turtle down there. Except you thought shark in the pond. There are some aquatic turtles that breathe through... not breathe, but they can exchange gases through the skin on their neck and through their cloaca, which is this region down by their tail. That lets them hibernate underwater. Now, they don't get a lot of oxygen that way. It's just through diffusion. But if you're hibernating, you've slowed down your body's functions. Everything's going very, very slowly, and that will allow the turtle to get the energy it needs to maintain minimal life support, so they can sleep underwater. Snakes. Yeah, snakes are fun, right? There are only 3 poisonous snakes in Virginia: the copperhead, the cottonmouth, and the timber rattlesnake. Let's see. Of those, the copperhead's everywhere. You guys have already all probably dealt with copperheads at one point and then run away. Or you ran it over. They are dangerous. If it's got that sort of arrow-shaped head, avoid it. It's so cute. The eastern cottonmouth is not in this region. If you see a water snake, it's probably not a cottonmouth. It's probably harmless. Timber rattlesnake, we're on the extreme edge of its range. It's possible to find one, but unlikely. The smart thing to do is give all snakes a respectable birth. Yeah, give them a respectable distance. Let them go do their own thing. They don't want to bother you. Lizards. Lizards like the Komodo dragon. I could have gone with the small lizards that live on your deck, but forget that. Komodo dragon. This is the largest lizard. It reaches 10 feet long. So a 10-foot-tall lizard. They are ambush predators. We used to think that they didn't have venom. These Komodo dragons, these very large Komodo dragons, will attack their prey. They'll bite their prey, and after they've bitten their prey, usually the prey is infected with a bacteria that lives in the mouth of the Komodo dragon and a slight venom, and that weakens the prey. The Komodo dragon does not continue to attack the prey, though. One bite and then withdraw. And then, as the prey leaves, the Komodo dragon follows it, because over a series of days, the Komodo dragon knows that eventually the prey will die. Very patient. They've been known to follow their prey for weeks until it falls over dead and eats it. So they hunt like wolves. They don't hunt like wolves in that the fact that they're lone. But otherwise, they attack, and they don't keep attacking. They just one bite and then withdraw, follow it until it dies. Crocodilians. Alligators have heavy bodies, but they are capable of very short sprints. I know that sounds weird. Imagine an alligator sprinting. I guess you could call it more of a lunge, but they can get up to 30 miles an hour. So when you see people baiting an alligator, sitting there dangling something over it, those things can move. Yeah, I have an alligator story for you. I know this is one of my favorite stories because this is my alligator story, otherwise known as how I got my wife's grandmother to like me. So my wife's grandmother lives in Florida, and in Florida there are a lot of alligators. In fact, you know the extreme northern range. Do you guys know what the northern range of alligators is? Yeah, Virginia. Yeah, Norfolk, the swamps down there. There are alligators and crocodiles in Virginia. Not kidding. Okay, go out toward the beach. They're out there. All right, back to the story. So she lives in Florida. And I went down to meet her. I think it was for the first, maybe the second time. And I was the different one. And I was also she's the oldest grandchild. So none of them have experience with new people coming around. So anyway, I had a lot to prove. I went down there. Things aren't going as good as they could have been going. And she has this little yapping dog. Now you guys know the little yapping dogs, right? Yeah. It's not super tiny. It's yeah, roughly 13 pounds. It's a purebred thing. Okay, got it. Well, she's much older, and her husband is also very old, and he smokes heavily. No, the dog doesn't have a husband. My wife's grandfather. The dog doesn't smoke. So they love this dog so much. Well, one day, the dog got out the door. I don't know. Somebody left the door open. It wasn't me. I know that. The dog went running out the door. And out comes her grandmother chasing after it in like almost, stereotypical fluffy slippers. She's like, stop. And then she gets tired. But then she turns to her husband. She's like, Fred. And she hits him. The dog's out. Go get the dog. And he's like, takes a cigarette out, puts another one in, gets his shoes on, which are the orthopedic old man shoes. And he goes running after it. He's like, running across the field for all of 10 feet. At that point, I'm like, I put my shoes on, and I go running out the door. So I'm like, this is my chance. I'm going to get the dog back, and then everyone's going to like me. So I go running after the dog, and the dog's like, yay, we're playing. So the dog goes tearing farther away. So I think, I'm going to outsmart this dog. And I turn down a side street. Up on this side, there's a lake. To the left, so to the left, there's a lake. I go to the right in order to trap the dog up against the lake, where I can then pick it up and return it home. So I get farther down than the dog. The dog is like sniffing and peeing on everything. So I got plenty of time. And then I come back toward it. And the dog sees me and is like, yay, we're playing. And then runs toward the lake. Well, on this lake, there was a dock. And on the dock, there was like dock, boat, and then another dock, and then another boat, and then no other boat. So the dog goes running, hits the dock, jumps on the first boat, jumps off the first boat onto the other dock, jumps off the dock onto the second boat, and then keeps going and doesn't realize there's no other dock. So splashes into the water. And I get to the end, I'm like, haha, now I've got you, dog, because you're stupid. Now the dog's panicking at this point because it's in the water. And the embankment has a 3.5-foot concrete wall because they don't want alligators coming up on it. And there are alligators in this lake, and I know there are alligators in this lake because I just saw it earlier that day. Fairly big-sized one, too. So I'm like, haha, dog, now I've got you. And then I look down, and the dog's 3.5 feet down, and I'm up, and I'm like, crap, can't get this dog. So, right. So I'm thinking, and I'm like, what are the odds of the alligator being around here right now? So I'm like, all right, I'm going to take off my shoes, take out my phone, put everything on the side. Now I'm starting to curse the dog, so I'm like, they better freaking like me. I climb down into the water, and I get the dog. So now I'm sitting there in the water with the 3-foot embankment, no ladders or anything, and I'm like, well, that was not well thought on my part. But that's okay, because I'm thinking if the alligator does come, I'm just chucking the dog at it. So Kirsten's, my well, at that time, my girlfriend's grandfather finally gets there. I think he even took the golf cart down. He was still, he's like, so what are you doing down there? I was like, I got your dog. He's like, I don't even like that thing. So I hand him the dog, and I'm looking around at this point, hoping, because now I just gave away my snack for the alligator. I'm like, so how do I get out of there? So the dog is out, and the dog is with him. Life is good, except I'm still sitting in the water up to my chest in waiting for the alligator to come. I was like, all right, can you help me out? And he's like, no, I can't reach you. How am I going to get out? Well, you got to swim around this corner over to that other dock, and I think there's a ladder there. So there I am in this alligator-infested lake with no dog as a distraction, trying to swim around. That was the scariest time of my life. So I got out of the water. I saw the alligator way far away, so I was actually safe. He wasn't heading at me or anything. I wish I could say he was coming right for me, and then I escaped. But no, I got out of there. I got back to the house, and since then, I've been the favorite grandchild. Birds. You guys have all seen birds. I don't need to go into the discussion about how birds are warm-blooded, how they've got feathers, how they can fly. You know that. What I want to talk to you about is one particular bird. This bird right here, Cherami. Cherami was a homing pigeon. People used to use homing pigeons to send messages, right? Back during World War I, they were primarily using radio at that time for communication. The problem was this one Allied unit had gotten behind enemy lines and was surrounded. It was entirely trapped. They had lost their radio. It was destroyed. The only thing they had to send a message to ask for help was one stupid bird. This carrier pigeon, Cherami. So the soldiers took Cherami and they tied a message to the bird and threw it up into the air. And the bird starts flying across the enemy lines and then shot down. Yeah, I know. Can you imagine being that soldier, though? Go! Send this message! Bring help! Oh. Right. So they think they're doomed. This bird lost a leg in the fight. It wasn't the leg with the message tied to it. Limped all the way back to headquarters. Delivered the message. And they got this help they needed, and they retook the position, they reinforced, and drove the enemy out. So in the process of trying to get across the battlefield, the bird lost a leg, lost an eye, shrapnel or something, I don't know. Because we're still in an active war zone with a bird trying to get across it. It's crazy. Yeah, just hopping along, because it's only got 1 foot. But wait, it gets better. The unit was so happy with this bird, they put it up for the Distinguished Service Cross. The bird won a medal. Now, they couldn't pin it on the bird, because that would be mean. And then they took care of this bird. They gave the bird a wooden leg and an eye patch. Right? Is that the bird in Looney Tunes?